Good morning. Great to see you all on this first day of school. I know it's exciting. It's a beautiful day. We're all rushing around. There's the bell. I have a better bell in a few seconds. We're all rushing around. That includes teachers as well as students. And it's always good to stop, to pause, to breathe, to be present. We hear that word mindfulness, being present, all the time. But if you just breathe, come back to this present moment. It's a beautiful day. There's a lot of, something about the start of school that's so wonderful. There's a lot of really good energy. So I want to begin and do this throughout the year with the bell of mindfulness, my old friend. I really think if we had the bell of mindfulness in a lot of our meetings in the world today, when people have disagreements, that we could really come together as people and realize that we're all part of one another. So I'm just going to ring it once. Listen to the sound. Let it take you down into that center within. There's a deep well within you. And just breathe. Thoughts will come. Let them go like the clouds. Just be present. Feel your breathing through your body. Okay? As our hearts are centered together, let us join me in a prayer inspired by Peter Gomes, who was the late chaplain at Harvard University. And I have no original thoughts. And all my thoughts come from great thinkers, spiritual writers throughout the millennia. O eternal God, source of all wisdom and knowledge, as we stand at the threshold of a new academic year, we give thanks for the gift of education, the opportunity to learn, to grow, and for the community of learners, teachers, and mentors, and employees with whom we share this journey. Grant us open minds that we may seek truth, hearts full of curiosity that we may explore the wonders of creation, and spirits of humility that we may recognize our limitations and the value of the perspectives of others. Bless the work of our hands, the thoughts of our minds, that in our studies we may not only gather information, but inspiration. Not only answers, but questions that deepen our understanding and enrich our lives. Help us to treat each other with kindness and respect, remembering that every person we encounter is a child of God, bearing the potential for greatness and the need for grace. As we engage in the rigors of scholarship, may we not lose sight of the broader goal, to be not merely well-informed, but to be wise, to be not merely successful, but to be good. Sustain us through the moments of challenge and fatigue, granting us perseverance and resilience. In times of accomplishment, keep us humble and grateful. Above all, O God, may this year be marked not only by what we achieve, but by the way we live each day. That we may grow not only in the knowledge, but in compassion, not only in skill, but in character. May our learning lead us to serve. Our successes inspire us to give, and our lives reflect the light of your truth. This we pray, trusting in your guidance and grace. Amen.
I want to thank Reverend Ganong, TAF's chaplain now for many years. If you're a returner, you know that these meetings often begin with the sound of a bell, not the bell that tells us when class begins and ends, but a bell like what Reverend Ganong just rang. I asked him, where did that come from? Because that was not a thing when I was a student here, and he shared that we used to do it live, the way we just experienced it. So I said, well, why don't we go back to that at least sometimes? And so we're going to do that. It's good to remember where things come from and to do them in an embodied way. So thank you for leading us in that way. And it's okay to giggle if that's a new thing for you, and then you'll get through it and mature, and we'll all do that together. Good morning. It's great to be with you as we begin this new school year together. TAF's 135th year. I also want to thank whoever left 2 acorns on my desk this morning. For those who weren't at my welcome, I used the image of an acorn that Mr. Mullane shared with a group of faculty last week, and it was really nice to walk in and see them there. The beginning of a school year is always packed with expectations, individually and collectively. Many of you are new to Taft, and we'll spend a lot of time over the next few days just settling in, finding classrooms, learning the rhythms and practices of school. Please let us know how we can help you. And if you are returning, please remember what it was like to be new and ask new students, and maybe even new faculty, how you can help. I did hear great reports, very appreciative reports from families who arrived, particularly new families, and how helpful so many of you were in moving people in. So thank you for practicing that hospitality and helping families settle in more easily. I want to focus on 2 topics this morning as we think about the year ahead. The first is attention, and the second is service. And I want to speak briefly at the end about the connection between the 2 of these. So attention and service, and how are they connected? 30 days ago at the beginning of August, I started as a student at a 2-week program at the National Outdoor Leadership School, Knowles, in the Wind River Valley in Wyoming. New 9th and 10th graders received a video that I made the day before my classmates and I hit the trail. I was really, really nervous. I haven't been this nervous about something in a long time. I was nervous to be with a bunch of strangers doing something I wasn't certain I could do, and I was nervous about being completely disconnected from my family for 2 weeks. One of the things you do right before you get on this bus to take you to the trailhead is you lock your phone and other devices in a locker at Knowles headquarters. This is my group, 5 students. You can maybe find me. 2 instructors just before we hit the trail. Just sort of felt like the first day of school. We were in our outfits and we had our backpacks, you can see them there, and we were sort of ready to go. And we were clean. That was interesting because we weren't shortly thereafter. This is a program I wanted to do for about 15 years, and I realize that's longer than some of you have been alive. I didn't grow up learning how to survive in the wild, and I've always wanted to learn. And I think a lot about leadership. I'm always looking for ways to learn and grow as a leader, and I thought there'd be no better place to do that than at the National Outdoor Leadership School. But even though this was something I was really excited about and had looked forward to for a long time, I was very nervous. The Wind River Valley is one of the most beautiful places on the planet. And our group learned so much in the short time we were there. But the most incredible thing about the 2 weeks was how focused and single-minded my classmates and I got to be for those 14 days, how easy it was to pay attention to one thing. I realized after we returned, and I was back home, and I was looking at email and texts and news, I realized that I haven't had really the luxury, because it was a luxury, but I haven't had the luxury of being able to focus on one thing for 2 weeks in at least 20 years. The closest I could get in my mind was my honeymoon, actually, with Mrs. Becker in 1999, where all we had to do was be together and enjoy where we were. So for 2 weeks, the only thing I had to do, and I really did have to do it, and the only thing I could do was the task of learning the Knowles curriculum. Knowles is very deliberate about their curriculum. They're very clear. It's very simple. 4 overarching areas for learning and growth, each broken down into specific sub-points. This one, for me, the wilderness skills, I like to hike. I've hiked a lot, but most of this I didn't know how to do. And so most of this was new to me and new to the rest of us. So for 2 weeks, this is what my classmates and I got to focus on. We got to practice, including even things like cooking pizza in the wild. I can't bake to save my life, but I helped make this pizza. And getting to know my classmates, getting to know my instructors, all of whom were equally focused on this same work. So we students also knew that our learning and our skill development would be tested because 10 days into this expedition, we would be expected to lead our classmates without any help from our instructors. Our instructors would take one route and we would figure out another route. And so at this point, we lost one member of our team, not lost, but she had to leave for an ankle injury. So it was down to 4 of us, and my classmate Julia and I were in charge of leading John and Brandon on a 10-mile trek off the trail for the most part to this location, Medina Lake. Student-led group travel. So this was very real. And it was remarkable to be in a situation where it was so easy to focus, to pay attention to a single group of interconnected skills, people, and a place for this sustained period of time. I didn't realize how unique it was until I returned. On my 3rd day back, I was catching up with family and friends and colleagues, catching up on email and on news. I was enjoying indoor plumbing, chairs, beds, food. And I found myself overwhelmed by all the incoming information, all the different things to pay attention to, often one thing having nothing to do with the next. And I felt a bit like this. And I want to just pause for a second because I've used ChatGPT enough. So I asked ChatGPT, I said literally this, I quoted, "Create an image of a middle-aged white male staring at a laptop screen surrounded by thought bubbles and include project management, groceries, catch up with my brother, exercise, email, news cycle, look at the weather, do laundry, family." And then I said, they gave me the first version, which didn't look like this. And I said, okay, thanks. I've learned you have to be polite to ChatGPT to get good responses. So I said, please add, spend time with my kids, go to a Yankees game, call Taps board chair. And just, I want you to focus on these thought bubbles for a second. Spend 2 with my kids. I don't know what this is. Catch up with my brother, whatever that is. Catch up with, I don't know what that is. Spend at laundry, go Yanksters, do the news cycle. I just say that by way of like, let's be really intentional about how we use these tools. I decided to leave it because I thought it was illustrative of where we are sort of as a society. But this is how I felt. The reason attention is so important is that it is arguably the most powerful capacity we have as humans. What we pay attention to is who and what we become. You may remember David Brooks wrote in How to Know a Person, the quality of your life depends quite a bit on the quality of attention you project out onto the world. The quality of your life depends quite a bit on the quality of attention you project out onto the world. Similarly, the writer Annie Dillard observed that how we spend our days is, of course, how we spend our lives. The of course there being that seems so obvious. What we do with this hour and that one is what we are doing. A schedule, she writes, defends from chaos and wind. It is a net for catching days. And we determine how we spend our days by what we pay attention to, how we direct our attention, or how we let others direct it for us. So this is normal life, and if you think it feels pretty complicated in high school, as I did, just wait, it only gets more intense. So while this is typical, this is what most people in contemporary Western society deal with day in and day out. It's not a great environment for learning, certainly learning anything deeply. It's not a great environment for cultivating peace and calm, inner peace and calm. It's not a great environment for being able to see other human beings, our friends and family and neighbors, for who they are, and choosing to serve them rather than serving ourselves. It leaves us feeling fragmented, living life skimming along the surface, constantly in triage mode. T.S. Eliot used the phrase distracted from distraction by distraction in the 4 quartets. The single-mindedness of Knowles isn't available to most of us most of the time. It's certainly not available to me. I can't turn it on. Well, one question for all of us at TAP this year and every year, because we aspire to be a place that's well-suited to learning. We aspire to be a place that is peaceful, a place in which we can see one another in all of our beautiful complexity. And we aspire to be a place where we can learn to serve one another. So one question for us is, how can we be more deliberate, individually and as a school, about cultivating habits of attention that are life-giving and in line with how we want to spend our lives? So this is all one reason why we're approaching smartphones in a new way this year. We're saying that it's good for our habits of attention that we all, including me, I don't have my phone on me, this feels very weird, it's in my office. But it's good for us to separate from these devices during the class day for a few hours, because it's only that, from 7:30 to 2:45, Monday to Saturday. We aren't saying that phones are bad, but we all know that they pull our attention. They make us more like this person, that person, and undermine the environment for learning and growth. Last Friday, when TAF's athletic director, Mr. Dunn, welcomed our preseason student athletes, he emphasized that learning in any domain is a process, and that we are more likely to achieve our goals the more we focus on the process rather than the outcome. I appreciated Mr. Dunn's attention to process, because building effective habits of attention is just like the process of building any other skill, whether in the arts, in athletics, or any other domain. Embedded in this question of how we at TAF can cultivate habits of attention in line with how we want to live is the connection between attention and service. Wherever you are coming from, and one of the beautiful things about TAF in 2024 is just how many different backgrounds are represented here. But whatever your background, we are all here at this place together. We now have this place and one another in common, just for this year together. We share the opportunity that it is to be here, and we share the responsibility for the school and the community that we build together this year. We get to learn and grow together, often very intimately, over meals and on dorm hallways, as well as in classrooms and other places. As we learn to be ourselves and then let one another be ourselves, be yourself. It's actually quite a vulnerable existence. And just as Knowles is very clear on their goals for students, Taft is clear as a school on the outcomes we want for each of you and for all of us as a community. You may be familiar with our Portrait of a Graduate. It's a little overwhelming, frankly, to put it all on one slide. There's a lot here. But above, below, and behind everything captured in the Portrait of a Graduate is Taft's motto: not to be served, but to serve. You will see it etched in stone. It's on every crest. It's now on T-shirts. That's new since I was a student here. Even T-shirts in Latin. Somehow we're making Latin cool, which I love. It's easy to think of service, though, as a thing that we get on minibuses to do for communities and people off campus. And that's good that we do that. But another deeper way to think about service is as the act of paying attention to your neighbor. Your neighbor in your dorm, your neighbor here in Bingham, in classrooms, sports teams, etc. Service is a particular kind of attention. It's seeing your neighbor the way David Brooks outlines in How to Know a Person. It's seeing your neighbor and being curious about how they are doing and what they need, and sometimes choosing to put their needs ahead of your own wants and needs. Brooks writes early in his book that our schools and other institutions have focused more and more on preparing people for their careers, but not on the skills of being considerate toward the person next to you. Mr. Brooks, as you may know, is going to be here in October. I hope he sees that Taft has always said that the skill of being considerate toward the person next to you, which is another way of saying the skill of service, is our overarching goal for Taft graduates. Brooks lays out a series of moves that we can all learn to make, moves that sound a lot like our Portrait of a Graduate. He says he writes, the real act of, say, building a friendship or creating a community involves performing a series of small, concrete social actions well. Disagreeing without poisoning the relationship, revealing vulnerability at the appropriate pace, being a good listener, knowing how to end the conversation gracefully, knowing how to ask for and offer forgiveness, knowing how to let someone down without breaking their heart, knowing how to sit with someone who is suffering, knowing how to host a gathering where everyone feels embraced, knowing how to see things from another's point of view. This is what service looks like in action and is a good list to aspire to even for us adults. This is what attention to our neighbor and our community look like in action. These are the kinds of moves we get to learn and practice together day in and day out, and we'll make mistakes as we create TAF together this year. And I should note, service, this list, it's not glamorous. It's also not what most of the culture around us points us to or encourages us to do. So in that sense, it's countercultural. But it offers a path to relationship and joy that exceeds other options on offer. I think that's one reason why Mr. Taft and Mr. Roberts, Harley Roberts, chose this as Taft's motto so many years ago. How do we do this? At Knowles, there were 3 people who taught the 5 of us over the course of 2 weeks. Jim, this cowboy, amazing. Ma and Emerencia, both amazing, relatively young, but amazing instructors. As instructors, they created a remarkable environment for learning. And as I mentioned, they had the built-in advantage, though, that the 5 of us students were able to focus entirely on what they were there to teach us, 24/7. At Taft, there are more than 120 amazing, dedicated faculty, all of whom have committed our lives to equipping you in the intentional habits that will lead to growth in and out of the classroom, and as humans who we hope seek to serve one another in the world at large. And I also should note, it isn't only Taft's faculty. We are surrounded also by incredible staff in the dining hall, in the bookstore, in the library, the mailroom, the custodians, all of these folks who do all of this work, mostly behind the scenes, to make this all possible for us. That's why we are all here, to help you learn and grow. As we start this year, I want to thank and recognize my colleagues for the integral role they play in your learning, growth, and flourishing. It's hard work a lot of the time, but really rewarding. Together, we are architects of this 24/7 environment for learning that Taft is. And finally, I want to emphasize how important a role that you students play in this same process. A final quotation from How to Know a Person. Brooks writes, "A person who feels safe because of the reliable and empathetic presence of others will see the world as a wider, more open, and happier place." You get to be this reliable and empathetic presence for others. That's one form service takes day by day at Taft. And a quick word to the class of 2025. We're all excited to see what you all do this year, and it's going to be a great year, and you're going to make it a great year. You all, as seniors, get to lead us in this. You get to choose how and when to use the position you had to serve others here at Taft, whether you're a 4-year senior or this is your first full day at school. And that starts at dinner tonight. Last year I was surprised, frankly, when a school mom at my first table at sit-down dinner, when it was time to go get food, he looked at a lower mid at our table and suggested that it was the job of this new student to go get the food, since he was new. And so I took the opportunity to point out to this beloved school mom, who I have a very good relationship with, that that's exactly the opposite of what we should do and be about as a school. That's actually the moment to model what needs to get done, or to invite the new student to watch you do it, so that they can learn. So seniors, we look forward to watching you lead by example. And just so that we avoid the shouting, totally fine with seniors leading the charge out of school meeting and assembly, so younger students stay where you are so the seniors don't have to yell at you and recreate that annual ritual. One word about dinner tonight, just because I think it might be helpful to our new students. I would suggest arriving by 6:20. Dinner starts at 6:30. Students, as Mr. Lacase's email recorded, must wear either a suit coat with a collared shirt and tie, dress trousers, socks, dress shoes, or slacks, skirts, or dresses with dress shoes or dress sandals, or other things. But shorts are not permitted unless communication about dress code comes out prior to dinner. We stand at our tables until Reverend Ganong has given thanks for the meal, or whoever he designates for that. New this year, we're actually not going to go up and get the food the way we have. It will be more of a buffet style, following the lead of the faculty member at your table, but we will all clean the tables together. So, seniors, this is your opportunity to lead. It is an honor and privilege to do all of this work alongside you, my colleagues, and you students. So here's to working together to make this a great year for Taft, one day at a time. Have a great rest of your day.